Hello everybody. Uh, Today I wanted to show you how to create a scatter plot and how to create lines of best fit and curves of best fit of various types using the tool Desmos. If you'd like to follow along, you should be able to find a link up here that you can go to get this exact site up on your screen too. So I've gone ahead and typed up some different problems up here, and so I wanted to show you how to create a scatter plot. It's very easy to do. To create a scatter plot, you'd press the plus button here, add an item, and create a table. I've already done that, so I'm going to open up the folder and show it to you. When you create it, it'll look something like this, and then you can just click and type in the numbers that you want for your X values and the numbers that you want for your Y values. If you wanted to add more, you simply could down at the bottom. If you've got all these numbers already typed into a spreadsheet, you can copy and paste them into here as well. It's kind of easy and convenient to do. Mine are showing, but the window settings a little messed up. If you scroll out a little bit, you can see that they are there, but they look ugly. So wanted to remind you how to adjust the window. In Desmos, if you go to the wrench up at the top, you can type in some appropriate numbers for the minimums and maximum values for X and Y axis. Our X numbers are times in seconds that range from 0 to a couple, so I might range from 0 to 3 or 4. I'm going to add a label and just say time in seconds. And then the y-axis, the heights go from 0 to 30-ish, so I might say from 0 to 40. Oops. And this would be the height of the projectile. I honestly don't know what it's measured in, so I'm going to guess it's measured in feet. So, and I may scroll out just a little bit with the picture, and so there's a decent picture of our scatter plot. Now, how can we come up with a line of best fit or a curve of best fit in Desmos? The way you do that, you'd add a new expression, and you would type the equation that you want to try to fit it with. So if you want to fit it with a line, maybe y equals mx plus b or something like that. However, there's some major differences that we need to do if we're going to do a something of best fit, a regression. First is instead of using an equals, you need to use a tilde, which is shift and the button right next to the 1, shift tilde. And then instead of using the variables y and x, notice how the x numbers are stored in a list that's called x1, and the y numbers are stored in a list that's called y1. We need to type y1 and x1. And so as soon as we've done that, you'll see a line of best fit shows up. And there's a number of nice things that it displays. It shows the slope and the y-intercept. By the way, you didn't need to know the right letters. You could have called them A and B or something like that. And then it tells you what the r squared value is, which is typically a good measure for how good of a fit your equation is. And so this data isn't, I don't think, a line. It doesn't fit very well. So I'm going to try to come up with a different one. My first instinct was that this kind of looked like an upside down U, and so that made me think of a quadratic. And so let me fit this with a quadratic. I'll create a new expression, and the equation then would be something like ax squared. So shift 6 to get the caret symbol up there. Ax squared plus bx plus c. And again, to make it do a regression, you need a tilde instead of an equals. And then you need the list names instead of variables. So y1 and x1 and here's another x1. And there we go. Now we've got a nice quadratic of best fit. And this looks like a lot better fit, 0.97 for an r squared. While we're at it, why don't we try a handful of other fits? Maybe this is part of a sine curve. So let me add an expression and type in a sine curve. So I'm going to go straight to y1, and then instead of equals is proportional to. And then for a sine curve, maybe I'll type a times sine of bx plus c plus d. And that looks pretty good too. So a couple different choices we've already had here. And so now Desmos makes it really easy to write all sorts of different formulas, a lot easier than the TI-83 or TI-84 does. These three would all be available with the TI-83, but you wouldn't be able to write our sine in factored form, for instance. And you wouldn't be able to, instead of doing this, coming up with maybe one, oops, not a table, I want an expression. You wouldn't be able to write an equation for it in vertex form, if you're familiar with that, x minus h squared plus, oops, I don't remember what the symbols are. It doesn't matter what letters we use here. But now I wrote one a polynomial in vertex form. You wouldn't be able to do that sort of thing. x2, wrong numbers, there we go, x1, that's why it looks right. You wouldn't be able to do that in a calculator. So Desmos is a really powerful tool that can do a lot of regressions fairly simply. So now with all this power, you've got several different expressions here. Now we got to figure out which one of these is right, which one of these is the best one to use, and so that's a lot more harder. So if you're interested in that, you can watch the next video that explains some things to think about when you're trying to choose which model's the right one. One last trick before you go. This file is organized by folders. You see all these things you can open and close. If I open and close this one, it'd be nice if these three things folded in with it, because they are all connected with this graph. And so to do that, if you notice this little gray line goes down along the side, these weren't in the folder. They might have been on yours, depending on how you set it up, but mine didn't set up that way. I can easily put them in that folder. Simply grab the edge on the gray area here and just drag it up a little bit. Now it's part of that folder. Do the same thing with each of these other two. And probably the biggest benefit for why you'd want to do that is they all hide together, and you can also show all of them at a time, or turn them all off at a time this way. So kind of a neat way of organizing your work. Anyway, hope you learned something. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below, and hope you had a wonderful day.